Mm. Yes, it is. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Improperly Packaged, a show where we unbox topics related to movies, TV, games, whatever. I'm Jordan. With me is Luke. How are you, Luke?
I'm doing great.
That's really good to hear. You're about to go
How
on
are you, J-Man?
Oh, wow. I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good, man.
Good.
I went to a party last night.
There you go.
Sort of. It was
Sort of party.
without getting too detailed about it. It was a weird thing where it was like a work event, and I found out about it the day of. My boss, like one of my bosses, texted me, and he was like, "Hi, I'm putting together a dinner. Would you like to come?" And I texted him back. I said, let me look at real quick. Okay. Oh yeah, I said, did you mean to text me?
Oh boy.
It's one of these. It's one of those.
Is that the head honcho boss?
No.
Or it's like you're part of the office?
No, neither really. It's a weird thing.
Not even really my boss. I lied.
He totally
this was
is
a stranger.
He's a lot of people's bosses, but like he's not like the head of everything. But either way, yeah, it was a strange night for me, honestly. When you go to a place and
Work functions can be.
Yeah, and it's not like all of my colleagues were there. It was just me and a bunch of people that I don't know.
Ooh.
And I have nothing in common with.
Sounds like some parties you went to in high school. I remember you telling me about.
Absolutely. It's high school all over again. And so like I'm talking to this lady who's sitting next to me, and like she, is talking about, "Oh, what do you do?" or whatever, and she was and then it's in that conversation you realize, wow, I am out of my league. What am I doing here? And so imposter syndrome sets in, and this lady is like in charge of all this stuff, and I'm like a grunt basically.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk about anything else? Let's go." But it was all right. It was all right. Free food.
It also, you end up talking about stuff that it's like, I just do this for a living. I don't really want to talk about it a lot.
I feel like, this seems really important, and I'm going to do
Basically
a good job.
But of what we talk about here.
Oh, 100%. I didn't talk about, it's crazy when like, you think, okay, there's a funny thing where it's like, I suppress, I get it all on my system here,
Everything we're talking about, you have to suppress.
Absolutely.
I know what you mean.
It's like when you're in this whole thing and like whatever Twitter space you are, looking at video game news or like listening to podcasts, you almost start to think that it's okay. So don't get me wrong, it's a lot more mainstream now. Like back in high school, when you're in high school, you're a freaking nerd if you like talk about Pokemon or whatever. But like now, it's not. It's still not that mainstream. I mean, you can't show up at a party and start talking about freaking.
And it's also so compartmentalized. There's people that are fans of things that are in the same realm as you, but they're not really the same thing as you. So you start talking, and it's like, "Oh, you're into like dungeon crawlers." It's like, I'm not really into that.
Exactly.
That's awesome for you.
What are the chances that you're equipped to strike up a conversation with a stranger? It would be like a crazy thing. Like if she started saying like, it's like, "Oh yeah, my free time, I like playing Kingdom Hearts." I'd probably pass out or something. Be like, "What?" But yeah, it's whatever, man. But I've learned to I basically never talk about this sort of stuff when I'm
unless
outside
somebody
of my
else
element.
brings it up.
If you bring it up, then I'll kind of slowly try to pull it out. Be like, "How much are we talking about here? How much are we really getting into this? Is this a little bit? Do you just like Star Wars or whatever? Do you like Batman or I don't know."
How far do you want me to go down this rat hole?
Yeah, because the guy who invited me, like I was talking to my colleagues about it, and they're like, "Weird." And one of them said, like, "I think he likes Batman. You guys should have something to talk about." I was like, "Oh, please."
Somebody liking Batman can have many degrees to it.
Absolutely. They saw The Dark Knight.
When I was a kid, I liked Batman, and that's the end of it.
Exactly. Oh yeah, Batman, cool. Oh man. But anyways,
the one that's like a bat and it's dressed in black. Sure, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's fine. I can fake being normal for 3 hours just fine.
Fake being normal.
Yeah, it's sad. But anyways, what have you been up to?
Welcome to the freak show, Jordan.
Welcome to the freak show. This is it.
I haven't been doing a lot. I mean, raising a human being.
Raising a human being.
That small task.
Sleeping, eating, pooping.
I was going to talk about it a little later, but I mean, the
Pooping?
Olympics is kind of the global thing. My wife and I are big fans of the Olympics, so I'm watching a whole heck of a lot of that.
How's that been going?
Really enjoying it. Been going well.
Good.
There's crazy drama. There's so many sports and events. I was going to talk about this during my watching, but yeah, it's awesome. I'll get into more details later.
Let's do it.
A lot of fun.
Well, yeah, let's break into this thing that we call a podcast and talk about what we've been watching / playing / listening to. Luke, what have you been listening to? This
I think it's your turn, dude.
It is. You're right. I think you're right. The Midnight. I talk about them a lot. They came out with a new EP. It's called the Rear View Mirror, which is a lyric from one of their songs. But this is something pretty unique that I actually have always wished that a band would do. Back in the day, there used to be these groups that would do like orchestrated versions of like, say, Dashboard Confessionals. It'd be like a string quartet doing like a cover of an album, and it's really cool. But like with this, they have this orchestra. I think what's it called? Magic. I don't know, but it's
like one girl, I think.
Yeah, I got
doing this like electronically, right?
I think it is it actually with live instruments, and they have like violins and woodwinds and all this stuff, and they went to the studio to do this, and they actually the thing I like about this is they actually added their vocals to it and actually sang on top of these things, and they like re-recorded vocals just for this, and it's a really cool freaking thing. I don't know. I think it's yeah, check it out. It's some of their basically like 5 of their older songs, and it's just these like orchestral sort of, not fully orchestral, like think strings, woodwinds, and piano. But for a band like the Midnight, where there's so much like techno pop and stuff like that, it's really unique hearing these songs this way, and it's cool to have the band itself collaborate with it instead of it being like this cover piece. So yeah, cool stuff. How about you, man?
I'm just gonna mention 2 things because I'm just really into it right now. Lydia came out with a single. It's Frankie Valli's "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," and I like the way they do it. It's interesting. It's not just a straight up cover. I mean, it is, but they change it up a little bit, and the way he sings it's a little different. It's Lydia. I mean, they've been one of my favorite bands for a long time, and they've remained small for years. I think they were really only got some popularity there back when I first started hearing them, and they were on some tours that I saw around the country, and I mean they're still doing 141,000 monthly listeners, so they're not tiny, but
not too shabby.
Yeah, I mean, like, their top song is under 4 million plays, so yeah. Anyways, "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" is really good. And then much larger thing that I'm trying to remember this dude's name. Can't remember it.
Andre Bocelli.
Leon Bridges came out with a new album called Gold Digger's Sound, and I haven't gotten to listen to all these songs yet. I've listened to a few of them, and that song "Born Again," which is like the first track on the album, is excellent. Leon has, I know you've listened to Leon before.
Yeah.
He just has a very mellow, relaxing, what would you say, like jazzy R&B sound like that I really enjoy. And
50s jazz, sort of. There's something, it's at least what I've heard, it's very 50s jazz. It's really low key and really nice.
His last album, Coming Home, was just great. And actually, that wasn't even his last album, but
They grow up so
Good
fast.
Thing, yeah, Good Thing was his last album. I mean, both of those albums were just great. It's just so many good songs. He hasn't gotten as much recognition as I think he should.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 9 million monthly listeners, so
Oof.
he's up there. But I mean, his voice is just so unique. And I'd mentioned a while back that Texas Sun song
Yeah.
that he collaborated with that strange titled band, Obanubu or something. I can't remember. Oh, Harungabin.
Yeah, that's right.
That was great. But Leon Bridges, man, just listen to him some more and listen to his new album. Just really good. Born Again, excellent, good song.
Word. So I have a few things here. We talked last week a little bit. We're watching the Spider-Man movies, and so we're continuing down that path. Not as extensive as the Fast movies, but there's a few here actually. It's kind of crazy when you go back and be like, wow, they made a lot of these things, didn't they?
Quick thing.
Oh yeah,
I still haven't watched the Into the Spider-Verse.
That's
but
right.
Would you say that that's set anywhere in the series of these movies? Or is it just completely disjointed from those stories?
Hard to say. It's one of those things where it's like I'd like to say yes, but there's no way in the movie itself it does not appear that any of the Spider-Men have anything to do with like the film universe. There's a lot of references to the film universe, especially the Raimi films, but I can't really say that it's connected at this juncture. If they like do something with the sequel and they're like, hey, here's Tobey Maguire or whatever, maybe, but I for some reason can't imagine the MCU letting them do that. I don't know. We'll see how things flesh out in the next couple years. But either way, we're gonna watch that just because even though it's not part of like it's like, it's a big motion picture that, another Spider-Man movie after this next one comes out, that makes like 9 Spider-Man movies that have come to theaters. That's like insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So we watched Spider-Man 3, and I could probably do an entire podcast just talking about Spider-Man 3. I have a lot to say about that movie, especially like more time goes by than I see it again, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a lot to say about this, because like I don't feel like it's a movie that's wholly terrible. I think it just doesn't work. It doesn't work really. But it's crazy. It's interesting to think about it because I think all the pieces are there. So if you like did a bunch of stuff differently, it would work just fine, and it would be really good. It's not like Wonder Woman 84 where I'm like, I don't even know what you do. This is the wrong story, Yeah. But with this, I'm like, well, this could have worked. Really, it could have, but it just, the way things were fleshed out and how obviously how everyone's complaint is true. It's overstuffed it's correct, but it could have been fleshed out in the way where it would take place throughout 2 movies and it would have been really good. But anyways, watch that. It was interesting to watch it for sure. It's funny when a movie happens like this, when it's so recent. Like when it was recent, I did not enjoy watching the movie like at all. Like there's not even a part of me that can enjoy it a little bit, because like this is it. Great. It's over. Great. This is what we did. Awesome. But now as we said, there's been so much since. It's like, well, now we could just move on to the next Spider-Man, have fun with that, then the next one, have fun with that. And so it doesn't really hurt as much. So I can kind of just watch it and enjoy it on its merits and criticize it on its faults. So I had fun watching it. Amazing Spider-Man, we literally just watched that.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. I mean, I think it's still a pretty good movie. It's kind of weird watching it so close to the other ones, because at the time, I don't think I minded as much the fact that it was so similar to the first Spider-Man movie, but like watching it so close to that one, man, it kind of is weird. To see it'd be like, yeah, there's a lot of beat for beat stuff in here, and it's sad because like the everything that it does when it comes to like Uncle Ben dying and him getting his powers, a lot of that feels so routine, even though it's done well enough. But everything that this does that felt routine, the first one felt so iconic, and so I don't know, but it's still, there's some really great stuff in it. I think the leads are good, the action's good, the effects are still really good. Oh my god! But yeah, yep. Moving
it's just
on
kind
through.
of weird having two like movies that's really just sit side by side.
Yeah.
I thought that when that movie was coming out, I was just like, man, I'm excited because I think Garfield could make a really good Spider-Man, and coming out of that movie, I said, yeah, he did something that I really enjoy. Like, I love the high, upbeat, like, I don't know, energetic Spider-Man that he played. But then, yeah, in a movie that, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's worse. Well, yeah, I don't know if it was like a lot worse than the original Spider-Man, but for me at least. But
yeah,
it was just like, this just felt like they made the same movie and changed a few things. So yeah, it was like, it just didn't feel like Sony had like a real plan. It was just like, let's do this again, like run it back. Like, okay.
Especially that first act. That first act is like, wow, I can't believe they're doing it. So like he gets in a fight with Uncle Ben. He pretty much says, with great power comes great responsibility. He gets upset and he throws it in his face and walks away. And because of that, he ends up getting shot. And it was the same kind of thing where like, I could have stopped this guy, but this guy was being kind of a jerk, so I let it happen. And then because of that, it's like this, it was the same, because it's so samey. It's like, wow, this really does feel like kind of going through the motions a little bit. But it's still a fun movie, and I think it definitely has a lot of good stuff going for it.
Oh yeah, definitely,
for sure,
definitely fun.
Yeah, keep it on going. So Luke, I kind of hinted towards this before the podcast started. So I saw a tweet. I think PlayStation tweeted this out. They said, "Hey guys, if you have a PlayStation 5, we're just gonna give you 6 months of Apple TV Plus." And I was like, "Oh,
wow,
great, that's cool."
6 months.
Yeah, it's pretty generous, I think.
Dang.
6 months is half a year.
Very generous.
Yeah. And so I hopped on and I was looking at the stuff with Amber. There's definitely several things, and I'm like, I know I want to watch it. I know I want to watch Ted Lasso. I have no idea what it is, but I've heard good things, so I gotta check it out. I just gotta. But sitting down with Amber, and she selected something, and we kind of just watched what was there. It's a new series. I don't know if it's a like ongoing series or if it's going to be like a limited series. It's called Schmigadoon.
Yep. I've completely forgot. Now that you just said that, I've completely forgot to mention that I even started watching that.
Well, there you go.
We've only watched the first episode. There wasn't any episodes out when we started watching other than that, so we just didn't go back to it.
We've watched what was there, and I think that's like the first 3, maybe 4. I think 3 actually, 3 episodes.
Wow, already 3.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's impressive. What it is basically, if you don't know, it's a couple whose relationship is on the rocks. They end up through circumstances in a magical town of which they cannot escape, which is basically a like 50s 60s era musical, and it's just like all the tropes are there. And you got Keegan-Michael Key as the I don't know the name of the actress in it, but as you'd imagine, they're like, what is this? Why is music coming out of nowhere? What's going on? And like kind of commenting on a lot of the tropes of musicals. And it's pretty funny, and there's some pretty catchy songs. Actually, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh wow, they put some effort into writing these musical numbers, and it's funny that there's so many. There's like usually 3 or 4 in a single episode, and I'm like, that's a lot of work and dance numbers and all that stuff.
I forgot to mention last week. I was going to talk about that.
What did you think of that?
I forgot. I thought there was a lot of high production value. I thought there was some funny stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, it would be a mixed review for me. It's like on one side, I really enjoy the story stuff. Basically, I enjoy all the stuff that's not the musical stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's twofold. It's for one thing, I'm not a big musical fan. I say that, you know, I'm not a big music fan, as in I don't like a lot of musicals.
Hmm.
But man, if there's a really good musical, I can be a really big fan of it. Like Les Mis, like I really enjoyed that movie, and
Yeah.
I go back to those songs now. Like obviously they're like the 100th time those songs have been redone for
Of
you know, for the
course.
screen and for
Yeah.
the stage. But that version of Les Mis, I really enjoyed, and I love their rendition of those songs. And yeah, I listen to them over and over again. So I can enjoy a good musical, is all I'm saying. And
Yeah.
but just for me, it's just way too much, way
Yeah.
too much
There's a
singing.
lot.
It's
Yeah.
just I want the story to progress more before there's a song, and I want the
Mhm.
song to actually mean something. And the songs are just too much of a joke. It's just like every time they sing, it's just a joke. It's
Oh,
like
you didn't enjoy that corn
it's
chowder
fine
song?
the first time, but then when in the first episode it happens 5 times, it's like, okay, we get it. Like
Yeah.
you do a lot of songs, maybe don't do as many.
Yeah.
It seems like it slows the story down too much for me.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I was interested to see what you would think of it for sure. So I'm happy to hear that you watched it because as someone who is like I'm not like a super fan of musicals where I'm like I know everything. Like there's a lot of musicals I haven't seen, but like I'm generally a fan, and so is Amber. So we were enjoying it, well, not loving it. We weren't like, oh my god, when is the next one? No, we were just like, this is you know, fun if not completely throwaway. But I had fun with it. I'm interested to move on to some of the meatier stuff that Apple TV Plus has to offer, probably starting with Ted Lasso, because but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what I've missed.
The Billie Eilish thing is something you have to watch.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
All right, I'll get on that. So that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, I thought I'd mention this just for a minute. I have started Skyward Sword HD. This is the latest in the, we've talked about a bit about this releasing whenever, the latest in Zelda HD remasters from the 3D Zelda era. And I'm playing like 6 hours into it. Played it a little bit on Saturday. It's interesting because like you know, it's just interesting going back from Breath of the Wild to an earlier 3D Zelda game because they've changed so much since just that game just changed so much about the formula. And so it's interesting going back, still enjoying it a lot. The music is freaking amazing. I think the HD upres was pretty good. Like I'm actually like, wow, yeah, this is clearly an older game, but it looks nice. It looks good to my eyes, and that's a good thing for, especially for like a Wii game. The controls are the interesting thing though, right? I think like so this was the first game and only Zelda game to be completely centered around motion controls at the time. Like Twilight Princess dropped with the Wii, but it was more like waggle controls. And with waggle controls, it's simulating a button press. It's like substituting a button press for like a motion. But this, it's actually like, whoa, you know. And so yeah, it's for me, honestly, it's actually kind of cool playing it in motion because there's not a lot of this stuff anymore. It's almost like, oh yeah, this was kind of fun sometimes back in the day. So where it became like almost too much, like there was like everyone wanted a piece of it at the time, and there's so much motion controls, and there's just, you got sick of it almost, and you're just like, come on, Nintendo, I just kind of want to play a game. But going back to it, I'm actually having fun with it. But that being said, they have created a separate way to play with button controls. They've like mapped some of these motion controls to the right thumbstick, which, you know, obviously there wasn't like a right thumbstick really. There was the nunchuck and the Wiimote. There was only one joystick at that, unless you were playing with the classic controller, which this game wouldn't have worked with that. And so it's I was actually, my wife was actually at at the time really focused on playing Horizon Zero Dawn. It's kind of cool. She ended up platinuming that game, but like I wanted her to finish it, so I was all right. I'm gonna take it off and I'm gonna play it handheld. And so I was kind of all right. I'm playing with the button controls, and it works okay. There's a really weird thing that is I just don't think quite works, at least not for me. Where a cool thing that they did, Zelda games, Breath of the Wild was the first one to have fully like a full camera control, whereas before it was like whoop, whoop, it was kind of like really limited. So they actually went back and said, "Hey, we're just gonna add this to this game," and so it added full camera control. But when you're playing motion, that stick wasn't being used for anything during the Wii era, so you can just use that for camera controls. But if you're playing with buttons, that stick is now in charge of all the motion control stuff, basically, and it works fine. But with the camera, you have to basically press a button to now toggle that, and it feels really weird. Like I'll be running around, like exploring whatever, and I'll have that button held, basically just using it as my camera, running around, and then I'll run into a bunch of enemies and I'm like, yeah, let's fight, like, because you have to like flick the stick to like basically swing your sword in whatever direction. And I'm like, why isn't it doing it? Oh, freaking button, my freaking fingers on the button to do the camera. And so it's like this weird switch in my head that doesn't, after 6 hours, doesn't really quite make sense to me at this point. And so my preferred way is probably motion controls, but I'm glad that option's there. I mean, it's the only option for people who have like the Switch Lite, for instance, which doesn't have like a put it in a dock kind of.
So it's like an accelerometer that it's inside of that's not included in the Lite.
Yeah.
Feel it.
Well,
or no, they're not detachable.
They're not detachable. Yeah, it's handheld only, baby, with that thing.
So you would set it up and actually detach and be like like that?
I played it in docked mode. You know, like I'd put it on the dock and just then away I go.
You have to
put
do
it on
the
TV.
controls.
Or if you could just detach the Joy-Cons and literally use the friggin' kickstand and put on the little screen. You could do that too.
If you weren't home.
If I weren't home, exactly. If I was at the park and all these kids were seeing me swing around.
Yeah. Like a madman.
Like a madman. Mom, look at this.
Calling the police,
Exactly. There's a crazy drunk person who has come to the park who is waving colorful sticks around.
Colorful balls around. What is he doing?
Yeah. Excellent. But yeah, let's want to talk about Pig, Luke. We saw a movie. You want to talk a little bit about it?
I didn't do my watching / playing.
No, I know. I thought this would be like we're fusing into
that. Let's talk about Pig. Let's do it. Fuse away.
We're like fusing our watching / playing.
Let's fuse away.
Luke,
we saw a little movie called Pig.
I don't.
Most people are probably saying, "What?
What movie? What is Pig, Luke?"
Exactly. That's what I thought when I saw it. So I heard Nick Cage was broke. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I've been hearing that for a few years. How he's like,
it's interesting.
That's why he's a working actor like he is now. He's squandered a lot of his money.
Well, I think it might be for all of our benefit, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, this is a movie that, I saw like a little quick review of it on social media somewhere, and I was just like, looks interesting enough. I really didn't know what it was about. I knew that apparently Nick Cage had given a good performance and that it was kind of an indie thing, and that was enough for me to be like, okay, well, I might want to see this. So yeah, we saw this 2 days ago now. What day is it? Where am I? Who am I?
Yeah, 2 days ago. Time flies when you're having fun.
And this is a kind of movie where I don't know how much I want to say. I think it benefited us coming into this not knowing much. At least I say that for myself. I'm really glad I didn't know the concept of what was going to go on. It's a very original movie. I can say that. It takes a new perspective and a new approach to conflict that I hadn't exactly seen before, and I really appreciated that about it. What's your quick thoughts on it, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It definitely subverts expectations. We've gotten a lot of you took my thing, you killed my thing, now I'm coming after you or whatever, which is kind of just the main setup of this, is that kind of thing. But I think it subverts expectations in a lot of crazy ways. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Um, I'm kind of frustrated by it because I don't think I understood it. Um, and I'm not saying that in a way where I definitely understood the plot. The plot is not hard to grasp. I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but it's like embarrassing for me to like completely misread a movie, but I think I am. Like I think like halfway, like maybe not even halfway, maybe like in the second act of the movie, I was like, for some reason in my head, I was like, this is a comedy. And I found myself like thinking, like going, like in that mindset this whole time, the whole time. And like some of the, because there are things in the movie that I think were like, kind of like just funny. No matter, I don't care who you are. Some of the things that happen are like, that's clearly really funny, right? And like the movie
stealing the bike, it was funny.
It was funny. You know, there's like a weird there's like this Fight Club situation that happens, and in that moment I'm like, this is insane, and I'm laughing. Like I think like I'm almost like it was like a Portlandia sketch or something like that, which the film takes place in Portland. But I think I could be wrong. Like I remember like talking with Amber on the way home and she being like, Jordan, you were laughing in that part. What were you thinking? I was like, it's funny, right? And I remember being like, no, I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna see dark comedy or something like that. Guys, I think I've never felt this way before about a movie. So, that being said, that sounds damning, right? To be like, it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was funny. I think this movie works both ways. Honestly, I think if as like a more dramatic piece, it works. Like some of the stuff I'm like, it works, but my mindset was switched at a certain point in the movie where I'm like, no, I'm here to laugh. And I viewed it as a comedy, and for me, it actually worked as a comedy. There were a few parts where I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to laugh at this, but either way, it's very unique. What I think what you're saying is 100% true. It's very unique, and yeah, that is interesting. How it's a different take of conflict resolution for sure. And yeah, I think it's great to see Nick Cage in a movie that's good and he does good, and yeah, it's a quality film.
Yeah, I was a little torn on this in a way. It was a movie that was very much not a movie that's my type of movie. I typically don't like movies that go in this direction. It's hard to remain spoiler free while we talk about this without, getting specific so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But the way there was conflict resolution was not my style, I guess would be the way I would say it. But at the same time, I did really appreciate the tone in which it's set. And I think it had an important message to say that I wouldn't say taught you a lesson or anything, but it focused on what I think was the more important things in life. And I think that was something that the movie benefited from. So I've already recommended this to my mom. I think this is something she'd enjoy. I told her, like, when she asked me, "Oh, what's that about?" I said, "Well, you're going to think it's really weird, but stick with it because I think you'll really like it in the end."
Yes.
That's probably what I would say to anybody who goes and sees this movie. Like, you're probably going to come in and just be like, "What am I watching?" And I wouldn't blame you for feeling that way, but
yeah,
watch the whole movie. It's worth a watch. Nick Cage did a great job. I think everyone in this movie did a great job. It was solid acting all the way through, and yeah, it was a quality movie. Yeah, just very original. So worth a watch for sure.
I agree. Well said, Luke. All right, man. What else have you been watching / playing this week?
We've been watching some more of the White Lotus. Been playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I there's not a lot. Really, the Olympics is like the main thing. I mean, it's on right now. Honestly, the team final for the women's Olympics is on right now. It actually happened this morning, but they air it in prime time. Just because of Tokyo time.
Yeah.
But it's just a reminder of just how amazing people are, and just how incredible the human body is, and like when somebody dedicates themselves to something, like what they can become. And I don't know, I just always appreciate that whenever the World Cup comes up, or the Winter Olympics, the Summer Olympics. It's just like, wow, these people are just amazing. It's just, I think sports does something that nothing else does. I think it brings out something in people that just like they can appreciate someone just doing something out of the passion of doing it, and not because they're getting paid for it or something like that. Like, I mean, all those things are true, but like these athletes, the only reason they do it, the only reason they drive as hard as they do, they train for years and years, to be amazing at swimming, to be amazing at running, is just out of the passion they have for the sport and the enjoyment they get out of it. And it's just, yeah, I think it's unique. It's a unique piece of life, slice of life thing that you don't get in any other thing. And it's there's no other event like the Olympics, of course, because you get so many different people of so many different skills showing off all those skills in this like few weeks of events. And this year was the first year they added skateboarding, which was really cool to see. Tony Hawk, of course, was there, like
That's
celebrating
awesome.
that. And the poor guy never got to be in that. I mean, I feel bad for him. It's such a cool thing. I'm sure he would have cleaned up if he was able to back in the day. But yeah, I got to watch some skateboarding. Watched a triathlon yesterday, the women's triathlon. That's crazy. Apparently they add and take away sports year to year.
Interesting. That would be a bummer to have your sport taken away. That's for sure.
I know, for sure.
I'm training. Oh, yeah. Wait, what now?
Oh, I know. It'd be terrible. And then, like, where do you even go? I'm sure there's like events, but it's like there's nothing. You tell somebody you won a gold medal, it's like that means something. You say you won the world championship in FIBA association. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm sure that means something to the people who are fans of that sport, but the Olympics is, it's something special. So there's just so many cool things going on here. And I will just say, like, because I have no other platform to convey this, I think the Japanese people have done an absolutely incredible job at the Olympics. Like, I am so impressed with what they have put on. Like, I'm sure things have been hard, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Pandemic regulations and, the Olympic Association, I'm sure, put pressure on them to do certain things. But there's some TikToks from athletes who are there in Japan, and they're like showing the rooms and the Olympic Village, and each country gets their own building, like, for their athletes. I mean, they have this 24-hour, 7 days a week place they can go and eat. Like, food's always available.
Yeah.
The facilities look absolutely immaculate. Like, during the triathlon, the athletes are running by, and like the streets are just perfectly clean everywhere. And I don't know if it's just because of COVID or what. There's like no one walking around. It's kind of weird. It's like, it feels like The Walking Dead. Like when Rick like walks into Atlanta, it's a little strange. Even when they show the like over the city like view, there's like not a lot of cars on that street. Like, Tokyo's an absolutely massive city,
crowded. Yeah,
it's weird. So there must be like regulations right now in place, but yeah, it just, I don't know. This is the only place I get to say it to like more than just my parents or my wife, but I'm just blown away by the Japanese people. I think Japan is such a unique country where, like, obviously we appreciate, video games specifically on this podcast.
Yeah.
And they're known the world over for the incredible video game companies, Sony, and but it goes so much further than that. Like, I don't know. I don't know how much I want to get into this. It's just, I'm just amazed by Japanese people. Like, they're some of the best of us. Like,
well, man,
it's amazing how small of an island it is, and how incredible of an impact they've had. Like from Nintendo to Yamaha to Suzuki, like you can just go through all these companies and they're all from Japan, and it's like this small island of like, you know, a few million people, and they just, I don't know.
It's remarkable.
The Olympics has put it on to display in front of me, and I appreciate it right now in this moment. And thank you, Japanese people. You've hosted an incredible Olympics so far. Just the facilities are just amazing. And I feel terrible for them. There's like these massive buildings that look beautiful, and nobody gets to sit in them and enjoy the Olympics. There's no fans. It's just,
Well, it's good to be appreciated.
Like, I'm appreciating the Olympics, and it's just a lot of fun.
Well, I'd be remiss not to bring up, you talked about video games. A few things that I do know about the Olympics is that during the opening ceremony, the musical choices that they put together for these teams coming on literally almost brought tears to my eyes. With
I didn't even get to see the opening ceremonies.
Musical choices, Final Fantasy theme, Dragon Quest theme, Kingdom Hearts, Nier replicant music. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, is this real? Sonic the Hedgehog, all this stuff, and that's beautiful. That's I loved it. I've been meaning to watch more. I used to watch it a lot, actually, believe it or not, when it was going on. But after like not having cable, I haven't really done it. What are you watching it on, by the way? Are you like streaming it off somewhere, or what are you doing?
Yeah.
You have Nintendo hooked up?
So my parents had switched from Dish to DirecTV, and I would use theirs, but we haven't been able to get that to work. So thank you, CJ.
Thanks,
I'm using
CJ.
his login to watch it on the NBC Sports app.
Thank you, CJ, for your contribution.
Yes, thank you, CJ.
To this podcast.
You're the real MVP, CJ.
Well, couple things I wanted to bring up, Luke, to talk to you about. There was one thing that we didn't really have time to talk about last week, and I was like, man, we got to talk about this. The Steam Deck.
Oh,
what
thinking of the other thing we didn't watch.
Oh,
we didn't talk about.
Well, what was that?
Tom Clancy game.
Oh yeah,
Weird title.
Let's go ahead. Tell me about that. Yeah, before we get into Steam Deck, because I think we're going to be talking a lot about Steam Deck. Maybe. What do you think? What did you think about that game, Luke? I watched the video. XDefiant. Okay, so you're gonna have to tell me, but here's my prediction of what I imagined.
Yeah.
How you would feel. I was putting myself in your shoes, or trying to. What I imagined your shoes would feel like while watching that video. Were you pulling your hair out? Because to me, this seems like everything you don't want from a Tom Clancy game, for the most part. I've heard a lot of stuff about, how Tom Clancy has been pure for a while, but then all of a sudden, hero shooter, people can fly, all sorts of stuff going on right now that feels out of step with what you know and love about Tom Clancy games.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, we're late on this, so I've heard a lot of reactions about this. So I know I feel like it's getting hate on all sides, and I don't blame people for saying that. I think it's very early. I mean, we've only seen one little video, so I think it's a little unfair to just start like piling on that this is like a trash fire that they've delivered, in a flaming poop mobile. But it very well could be that. I think one of the things that really concerns me is Ubisoft. On another podcast I was listening to, Ubisoft has already come out with a battle royale game that, if you asked anybody, like even me, I didn't even know that it ever happened. Like, apparently it's
What's it called?
Going on.
I played a little bit of it, believe it or not. I forget what it's called. The futuristic one, right?
Yeah. But the point is just like, nobody even knows about that. So,
No.
But I mean, that was not titled Tom Clancy's whatever,
Yes.
And so, I thought it was ridiculous. First of all, that it had Tom Clancy's name on it. X Defiant is a terrible title. It just is. There's just no way.
We're blending shooters with punk rock, Luke.
Yeah, the punk rock thing's terrible. But I've never liked hero shooters, so this feels like some weird hybrid of a hero shooter and a Warzone style, you know. But it's not. It's not a battle royale. It's more of a, what is it? More of a small team. What is it? 3v3, 6v6.
Yeah.
It's more of like Call of Duty's like Twitch shooting like multiplayer, like their bread and butter multiplayer that they started with. Yeah, it looks like, I don't know. I was trying to pay it a compliment, but I can't find the words to. The most frustrating thing, I think, is what you said. You know, it's characters that I've come to know and love over the years, from Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, The Division, of course, which is a game that I looked forward to for years, and I still think was a great game that I think is underappreciated. I think if you got somebody with a better vision in there, I think they could turn The Division into an even better game. I really appreciated that game. I did not like the sequel a lot, but I thought the first Division was excellent. And yeah, I think they're taking one of the worst things about The Division and putting it in this game. Like, they're taking the cleaners, like this like group of like guys that are like down in the sewers, and they have like all these toxic weapons and stuff. And it just, I thought they were so stupid in that game. Like, I hated when I had to fight them. It's just, I'm having a hard time organizing my thoughts. It's just a lot of frustration in this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think you ever know how good or bad a shooter is until you actually get to feel moment to moment. How replayable is it? You know, how does it feel? Because when you play something like Rainbow Six, and then you play something like, I don't know, even Call of Duty or Halo, I mean, it's just, they're so different, and so they attract different people. And
yeah,
so, you know, just because it might not feel like Call of Duty, it might not feel like Halo, that doesn't mean it's not going to be good. I think the cardinal sin that it does is it combines all these parts of these different games and makes them feel very throwaway, very unimportant. And yeah, I remember, I think it was a couple weeks before this, we were talking about, oh yeah, there's this rumor that, you know, they're going to bring out this thing that combines all the Tom Clancy things. And this is certainly not what I was thinking of.
Not what you had in mind.
For some reason, I was thinking like some kind of open world. You could switch types of heroes, and you would have missions with different clans. This was,
not quite.
It's a money grab. I mean, that's when it boils down to it. It's just how can we create a free-to-play game that we can sell a bunch of stuff? I mean, that's all it is. And I think this is one of the worst offenders that's come out. You know, there's been a lot of games that have come out and done this model, but it feels like they were trying to do something new.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask of video games. And this feels like they're just taking what they have and throwing it into a shooter and making it a free-to-play game. And it just feels lazy, I guess.
Yeah. You know, seeing it, I'm like, this looks fine, but like from my point of view, but from like, it's kind of sad to see, as you said, because like it's fun to have like different spaces for different types of games. And so for all things to become like either a freaking hero shooter or a battle royale or something like that, it's like, wow. I mean, I feel like Tom Clancy did carve out this space for like the more tactical and like nuanced approach and everything, and for that to become a little bit more like all those other things. I'm like, I mean, and I'm sure there's probably going to be, from what you were telling me actually, Luke, is like some of these other games are becoming like this too, like what Siege or whatever is becoming nuts as well. You know, I don't know. So that's kind of sad, but you know, either way, who knows what the future holds.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that frustrates me is they're spending their time and energy on this when there's so many good games that they really could make. I mean, the obvious one is a Splinter Cell game. I mean, that's long overdue. But
Yeah.
another one I was thinking of is when they took Ghost Recon, they had Wildlands, and then they released the whatever the sequel was called to Wildlands that just was a disaster. Like, just had the worst reviews.
Mm,
I didn't play it, but apparently it wasn't very good. But it's like, just go back to Wildlands. Like, that got great reviews. It had a huge player base.
yeah.
Just create Wildlands 2. Like, have that same casting crew on a new map in a new country. Like, it's not that hard. Like, you already have all the assets for all the characters. I mean, yeah, you'll need to create a new map, but it seems like you've got a nice little jump start there. You just take those old assets, make that. So it's like right there are two huge games that I think would sell like hotcakes: Ghost Recon Wildlands 2 and Splinter Cell Chaos Theory 2. I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
Chaos Theory was well reviewed, so I think a sequel to that might be cool. At 10 years later, I don't know, something like that. Like, because I think that was 2013. So I mean, I think it was 2013. I'd have to look back, but
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the future holds for Tom Clancy. I thought before we bring up Steam Deck and talk about something fun, I thought we should probably mention all the insanity going on at like Blizzard and Activision. Have you heard anything about this, Luke?
yeah,
Gosh,
sounds very sad.
very sad. It's almost like I hesitate to even talk about it because it's just so awful. And you're like, well, what's there even to say? There's like nothing to really say about it other than like, man, I hope either justice is done or some sort of accountability can happen for the people who are doing bad things. So,
Yep.
Jeez Louise. But I hope somehow they can salvage things and get good people in there, good leaders, and throw out the bad
terrible
people.
to lose those studios.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. Throw out the
Altogether.
bad people, get them out of there. I don't care what they write, what did they do, throw them out and get some good people in here who know how to treat people.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Steam Deck?
Steam Deck, yeah.
Yeah, this
Really
is
hit the internet by storm.
yeah, it's an interesting timing too. I mean, it was like right on the heels of Nintendo kind of announcing
Yeah.
the
And then we finally
OLED.
got our Switch Pro.
Yeah, that's like the joke, like, oh, here's the
Yeah.
Switch Pro, which like, yeah, I mean, a lot of things that people were hoping the Switch Pro might be, this it actually kind of is in a lot of ways. It's like, it seems like a really like a swipe, but it's kind of true.
Yeah.
Very interesting,
Very interesting.
nor
It's so interesting how open they have it, I think, is one of the,
yeah.
just a plain computer.
That's very interesting to me. I mean, I think no secret here. No, neither of us are PC gamers. I have a gaming PC. I have a few games on here. It's not the way I like to consume my content. And this seems like an interesting move that might take like gaming away from the office, from the desk or whatever, maybe bring it into the outside, bring it into the living room with like a dock or whatever. And you know what? That's cool. A lot of people are saying they're taking what Nintendo has done and they're running with it. And you know what? If that's great. I think this is a really good thing. I mean, personally, I don't know if I personally am going to get it right off the bat or anything like that, because I'll explain why in a bit. But what are your thoughts on it, Luke?
I think it's a move that I'm surprised more companies haven't made before now.
Yeah.
A company like Alienware comes to mind. They've been around the world and back creating different versions of the gaming PC, and yet this was never something they got into. Mobile gaming is an interesting idea in general. It's been something that has had a very rocky life if you think back on it. I would say there's a lot more failures than there's been successes, and I think a lot of devices that people wouldn't even remember that have come and gone and trying to do this kind of thing. There's only really a handful, and Nintendo owns most of them that have actually been successful. So I think it I think it very well could be the right play for Steam, or Valve, I guess. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of risk to it. I think I wonder how how this device will do after the initial like big boom wears off
Yeah.
from the internet, because there's the initial people who are going to adopt it. There's the reviewers that talk about it and get everybody excited, and then there's, does it actually have legs after that? And I think those two
Yeah.
worlds are very different. So I'm super excited because I
Me
just think
too.
it's really cool for somebody else to enter this space. I don't think it's something I will probably buy, but it's something I really want to watch. And it's like, I don't know, maybe years now when they've improved it, second, third generation, maybe it's something I might get.
Yeah.
Especially if it is like a dual use machine. Like I've heard some people saying this is a Linux box. You can apparently load up Windows inside of it
Mm-hmm.
somehow, and there is a way, like apparently it's a little convoluted how you can get Windows running, but you can do it apparently. And then of course you can put Game Pass on it, which is really neat.
Freaking
um
awesome. Yeah, another way you
but
can do that.
I think it's just cool that it's Linux alone, because it just allows you to do so much with it. I could see makers possibly using this device
Hmm.
to create, I don't know, control interfaces. It's at a price where it's like, it's not so expensive. I mean, it's, it's a
No.
mid-tier iPad level price. Um, but but in a super open platform that can work with anything, you know. Not to mention obviously the gaming potential of it, but I just, in an overall tech thing, it's just a cool idea, something that there just hasn't been a device like this. As obvious as it seems
Yeah,
like
not
somebody
quite.
would create something like this, there hasn't been. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it does. But I think it could put Valve into a new realm that almost even excites me more than anything else. Is like, what would Valve do if this was a success? If they start creating hardware on the regular, laptops, consoles, controllers, computers. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just phones. Like, I mean, there's, the potential is kind of limitless. It just depends on how successful they are to fuel their vision. But Valve is a company that just has created amazing things. Every time they touch something, it's like
Oh
amazing.
yeah,
I mean,
innovators.
Steam is by far the greatest success in gaming ever. Like the amount of money they make with that store is just ludicrous. And
Yeah.
it just kind of started as this small little project. I remember way back in the day when that came out, it was just another thing on the internet. It was not the thing it is now. And kids won't know because it was way before them. But
Yeah.
if you're as old as us, like it was it was nothing back then, and now it's like this juggernaut that just can't be stopped. It's right up there
Yeah.
with the Apple Store, and it's awesome. So, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's I have a few questions and I'm interested to see, like, and again, what you're saying I think is very true, and I think that's the most exciting thing is how will they evolve it. Oh, I'm more interested in like what this will look like in 5 years, because I do think this initial launch will be a success for them. I think there's going to be a lot of people who get this. They have really genius model for pre-ordering. I thought that was really, really smart to be like, hey guys, come on, $5, get you in the door. We'll let
Yeah,
you know when it's your
the
turn.
Tesla model.
That's cool. That's freaking cool. Instead of being like, if you're not sure, that's fine. $5. Come on
Yeah,
in. The water's fine. That's really cool. I'm interested in a few things. How, like, I'm sure a lot of people will be getting their hands on, and a lot of people will know these things before the things even release. I'm interested in the space. Like, Switch is interesting. Switch doesn't have that much internal space, so like 32 gigs initially. I think the OLED will have 64. Not a lot, obviously. The modern consoles are closer to a terabyte. But the
yeah,
Switch, the way they make their games are very small. Like there'll
yeah,
be a game where you're like, it's a huge game, like Zelda's like 10 gigs, something like that. And but if like you're getting something like, Call of Duty Warzone on say a Steam Deck or whatever, and if like your headset or even something like
Yeah.
Witcher 3 or I don't know.
That's true. I didn't think about that, but you're right. You're going to be accessing these full versions of these games. That
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point you bring up there, because this is a 720p screen. So can it somehow only download what it needs to power a 720p?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I don't know. See, I'm sure if someone who is like, if you're listening to this and you're a PC gamer, you might be like screaming at your iPhone or whatever. But like, I don't know if there's like, if you're playing on ultra settings, it's like a way bigger download, or if you're playing on low, it's like, oh, half the space. I have no idea. Like, for instance, that's a thing when it was like when we had a not Series X, but Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Well,
it would be like,
right now. So there's high res texture packs that I can either download or not download for Warzone specifically. So
okay. So
I assume there's that, which it'll save some room, but I mean, we're talking at least 180 gigs.
Oh my god. Yeah. So it's like you almost like having like, I think it is an SD card or something. I don't know if it's micro or full just SD, but they're getting better as far as like their price. I remember when the Switch came out, it was like
they're getting bigger.
Yeah, they're getting bigger and they're getting cheaper. And like I remember being like the thought of getting like a 256 or whatever gig micro SD was like, oh my gosh, like when the Switch came out. And then it's been like 3 years later, I'm like, oh, it's like $30. And I was able to like get one, be like, all right, cool. But man, just like the thought of getting those like games where it's like you almost have to have one that's like 500 gigs at least to be able to play those high-end games if that's what you're into. But I'm interested to see how, if it's going to be a hurdle for people or if it'll be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna grab this thing, I'm good to go. We're PC gamers, we're used to doing crap like this, you know, getting what we need to do with what we want.
And like I said, I wonder if there's going to be a Steam Deck version of the game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if
we know your settings.
To do that,
here's this,
or if Steam could somehow offer that, but that'd be nice if they did do that.
I'd feel like there'd be incentive to, if this breaks a lot of new people into like the PC gaming space, there'd be incentive to be like, hey, don't worry about it. We want our game to work well on the Steam Deck. We've preloaded the settings in here with the correct download size or whatever. That would be really smart of developers, I think, to get their games in more people's hands for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it like you said, I mean, it's going to depend on the success of the console. It's like the developers work where the money is. It's as simple as that. So.
And I'm also curious as how the dock works. I think like I think the answer is probably pretty simple to this. They didn't really talk too much about the dock. The dock is sold separately, which apparently it's not like a proprietary thing like how Switch is, where it's like, this is our thing, you got to use our thing, or else you're dancing in muddy waters and you might really but so I don't know if it's a 720 screen, but it's a PC, so you could theoretically be like, oh, I'm gonna play this game in 1080p mode or whatever, and it would just, and you have it docked in and it would just go onto your TV that way, right? You're not like locked into 720 or anything like that. I'd imagine.
I thought they said that you could go up to 4K out.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot.
I don't know how it could handle the heat. It's the same thing we've talked about with the Switch.
Yeah,
when they were talking about Switch Pro possibly having 4K on the screen. It was like, okay, let's not get crazy, guys.
I think regardless of like what the potential is, I don't know if the internals could handle such a thing. Even if the heat sink was there, I don't know if like even with just like the chipset, I don't know if that, because like from what I've heard, this is basically like, as far as power comparison, it's either like a PlayStation 4 sort of, like from what I hear, which that's don't get me wrong, have that handheld is awesome. That's leagues above like where the Switch is at this point, like as far as power is concerned, and so that's awesome. But I don't know, I'm really interested to see what this does when it's in people's hands, Yeah, so I think it's very cool. I think it's good for gaming. I've been wanting PC to like break into like the television or the living room or whatever and get into that area. I think that would be really cool. I mean, I'm waiting on it. I'm seeing how it goes. If it's takes off, it might be something I do. But right now, it's like it's not like oh my gosh, of course, because like I'm not really built into the Steam or the PC infrastructure. Like there's a lot of people who are getting this who are like, I have 700 games purchased on Steam, and all those games
Yep.
are coming with me to the Steam Deck, and I have like one. So it's like, yeah, I'd be starting
Yeah.
new on this thing, and so I don't
Yeah.
know. It's cool though. I'm
It
happy.
is a little weird when you're not a PC gamer and you're coming into
Yeah,
this, but yeah, that's why. I mean, it'll find its audience, and I think, it's a little bit wait and see with it. See how it comes out, see how people's reaction is to it. It'll be interesting to see how people who are just general gamers like us and people who are specifically PC gamers,
yeah,
because yeah, investing in a new platform like that is, yeah, it's it's a lot.
it's a
It
lot.
it'd be a little bit like me moving back over to PlayStation after all these years of being gone.
Yeah,
It'd be like, um, this is cool. There's a lot of cool games, but gotta drop like $1,500 to
yeah.
get caught up. But I mean, that's where something like Game Pass has changed gaming.
Yeah, good point.
So I don't know. I mean, I think Sony and Nintendo, it's only a matter of time before that's going to be something that they need to do. And could that be something that happens on Steam? I don't know. Maybe
Maybe.
the combination of something like that with the Steam Deck. Wow,
Oh my God, yeah.
that'd be pretty cool. I mean, think about it. You're going on a trip. You literally just say, "Hey, I'll download 5 new games," and then you get to your hotel. You've played those 5 games. You delete them off your Steam Deck, and you download 5 more games.
Yeah,
It could be really cool.
absolutely. And I think honestly there'll be something like that, and if not, I think people are going to make a way for that to happen. I think there's a lot of whether that be with the PC version of Game Pass, or even like maybe if you want to do streaming, there's xCloud and PlayStation Now. You can stream that onto a PC if you want. And by the way, I actually had an update on PlayStation Now that I wanted to discuss at some point. I completely forgot about that.
Still have it? When's your year run out?
Well, the funny thing is I completely forgot about it, and I
Uh-oh.
went into another year. It was the auto subscribe. I turned off the auto. I was like, shoot, honey, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm turning off the auto subscribe. I turned it off. Don't worry about it. We're fine. That being said, I feel like I was being so I've had a little bit better of an experience with it lately. I'm talking about streaming specifically. Still, I don't know about this whole streaming thing, honestly, to where it is right now. For instance, like I did the thing where I went ahead and hardwired the console in, and that's something I haven't done before. No matter how good your wireless internet is, it's never going to be as stable as when it's wired in. And so wiring it in, it was almost night and day when it came to streaming. It looks much better, much more acceptable. Still not 100%
That's what I do
perfect.
for Zoom, and I really noticed when we were first doing Zoom, there was some lag and some jittering, and it seems like that doesn't happen anymore once I got the little adapter for my MacBook, and it makes a big difference.
It's crazy how much of a difference it can make. And so it's a lot
There's
better.
Some kind of like collision with the packets is what I've heard with this streaming that only occurs with the Wi-Fi. Super frustrating.
Yeah. And the only thing is, like, when playing some of these games, it's cool to just boot up a game, like, oh, I'm going to boot up this PlayStation 3 game or whatever. But the truth is, still, you're streaming it from some PlayStation 3 somewhere, which is a suboptimal way to play it, obviously. And it's like playing a game like Red Dead Redemption, like the original Red Dead Redemption. It looks good. Plays good like you would expect from PlayStation 3, but sometimes it's kind of like you get that weird thing where it's like, man, there's so many better ways to play this right now. Like, it would be much better if I just like had this game on like Xbox, for instance, because
Yeah.
with backwards compatibility, it would just look and run so much better. Whereas this, it's not like it's doing any back compat with PlayStation 5. It's not benefiting like at all from the fact that it's on a PlayStation 5. It's just being streamed pretty capably from a PlayStation 3. And I'm just like sitting here, I'm like, is this really what I want to play right now? You know what I mean? You just get that.
Yep.
Is
That's
this
the
really
ultimate question as a gamer you ask yourself.
Yeah, I'm already
What am I
on the
doing?
rocks of whether or not I want to play Red Dead Redemption 1. But is this the way I want to play it? You know? So, but much more positive reception, you know. But it is what it is. So, anywho, anything else about Steam Deck? I'm sorry, that was a tangent. I just completely forgot to mention that.
I was
last
just
week.
looking at the specs, and man, it's just it's so cool to see something that has this good of specs for this good a price.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't an Apple thing, honestly, because like people think of Apple as expensive, but honestly, if you break down what the parts cost, Apple actually is very affordable. Like
Yeah.
they're amazingly affordable. But the thing obviously that they've done here that Apple does not like to do is offer like all the extra things like ports and
Yeah.
just extra ways to connect to like your device, make it more accessible. Yeah, this just $649 might sound like a lot to some listeners, but actually not bad for 512 NVMe,
Nope.
which is a pretty expensive drive. And you're getting the RDNA AMD GPU. That Gen 2 RDNA 2 is like, it's the new thing. It's the Threadripper. It's the Ryzen. It's like, it's going to be a mobile version of it. So it's going to be, it's going to have its wings clipped a little bit, but it's still going to be pretty substantial. And especially on a screen that's 1280 by 800. I think people, will look at that and say, well, that's not even 1080p. But you have to remember, 1080p is a measurement of pixels.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a measurement of pixels. And the pixels related to the screen size are very important. So
yes,
when you're talking about a 7-inch screen, 1280 by 800 is not going to look bad at all. It's not going to look as good as your iPhone, but it's still going to look really good, and you're going to get 60 hertz. It's like it's going to look really good, and it's going to be sipping on that battery a lot more than if it was a 4K screen or something stupid that.
It's not going to.
These choices were made on purpose. These were not just, they didn't just stumble on that screen. They're trying to, compensate. 40 watt hour battery with 1280 by 800. So
yeah, that's the way to go.
Cool.
That's the way to go for that's the move for your handheld for sure. Because like it's funny because like it's like you notice like if you're out there playing like say your PlayStation 4, like base PlayStation 4, and you have it on your 45-inch 1080p television. It looks pretty great, right? And then you get your 70-inch 4K screen and you're like, wow, this looks a lot worse. Yeah. I thought I got a really new TV. That's being stretched all the way out there. And then when you upgrade to a 4K game or 4K system and you're like, there it is, it's so it's just, it's all about that screen.
It's the reason there's been this like push to 4K and there's been this push to 8K is because we want bigger and bigger screens, like people are regularly getting screens over 60 inches in their house now. And I think it's going to just become more and more true over the years. I think people are going to move up to 70 and 80, and soon I think people will have and they might even move to projectors. I don't know. It's just people enjoy a large screen. And I feel like you either have moved completely away from TVs in general, or you want like the ultimate setup. Like that's kind of how households are now.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a novelty. It's like, you either don't want it because you want a clean house and you don't want any of that, or you just want to have a great experience. It's kind of like, you were saying with your wife's, was it your wife's brother?
Her brother, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, they obviously just don't care about it. But for those who do, like, prices have come down, screens are getting bigger. So I don't know why did we talk about that?
No,
we got on a tangent.
No, I mean, I don't really have much more to say about the Stream Deck. I think we're in agreement. I think it's a really cool thing, and Yeah, looking forward to see what it does when it gets in the hands of the consumer. Um, I only really had one more thing, Luke, to bring up, which I thought was just funny. Honestly, no, I don't really have many feelings about it. It was announced today that they're in early production with Netflix to do a live action Pokemon series.
I hadn't seen that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're really trying to dive into the gamer space in like a huge way. They're seeing money. Which they're not wrong. But yeah, I mean,
Dragon Age series.
Dragon Age series, obviously The Witcher. Like, did you see they did like this big like internet event? It was like what, WitcherCon, or what was it called? I forgot what it was called. Something like that, where it was just 100% focused on The Witcher. It was just like, here we are, we're talking about season 2. I've been up season 2 with Netflix. Here we are at Netflix bringing this to you. It wasn't
CD Projekt Red. It was a Netflix thing?
Yeah, Netflix was heading it up, and they were teaming up with CD Projekt Red to be like, here's this, and we're going to bring stuff from the show.
You guys need some good media. Let's help you out.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to do the next gen version, and with that next gen version, we're going to bring like a TV show DLC into it. And it's like, wow, they're really going for it. So you got this, the Castlevania series, they're going to do a Devil May Cry anime. There's a lot going on with what did you hear? They're talking about streaming games. Did you hear this? Yep. Yeah. What in the world?
Yeah, I heard it talked about on a tech podcast, and from what the guy, I don't know. He knows a lot about streaming. I don't know if he's an authority on exactly Netflix's plans, but what he said is Netflix is not set up for live streaming, if that makes sense. Like, they're set up as like a content delivery. So like when they send something to you, it's really just your TV downloading it as fast as it can and then playing it for you, versus a live event like the Olympics, where you're like watching it as it happens, as the thing is being recorded, it's coming to you. So like when they talk about like game streaming, it probably won't be game streaming. It will probably be like the game gets downloaded to whatever it is and then is played by you. If that makes sense.
So it's got to be like smaller stuff. There's no way it's going to be like, here's Witcher 3 or whatever,
Yeah.
I can't imagine it.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, because that doesn't seem like it would work on your device. But
no. And what are they going to play it off of? Are you going to have some way to sync up a controller? Are you going to have to play with your TV remote?
Yeah, I guess his point was just like the way Netflix's servers are set up, they're not really set up for doing the like xCloud format of streaming. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they overcome that.
And it seems like it's going to integrate exactly like in with what you have now. They said they're not going to be like some higher tier that involves games or whatever. It's just going to be like some separate section or whatever. I don't know. I'm not imagining.
It just seems like there would be hardware specs that you would have to meet for that. That's what I'm getting a little confused on. So I want to know how that tech's going to work. I have my doubts.
Of course. I don't know what in the world this is going to be. But it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how, like, for instance, this Pokemon series is going to turn out. It seems like, I feel like almost with Detective Pikachu, I think they went probably bigger than they even needed to go. I mean, some of those Pokemon look ridiculously good. And so I'm not really expecting that tier as far as like CGI is concerned. I don't need to see full fur textures for a freaking like I don't need it.
Nice, isn't it?
It's nice. It was cool seeing Jigglypuff look like that, but I don't really need to see an ultra realistic looking Charizard per se. So if it looks like acceptable CG and not just like I don't need to be blown away by it. Just give me a good story. Give me a good Pokemon story. I don't know. But yeah. Interesting to see what Netflix is doing. It's cool that they do seem like they're doing different stuff and try to dive into that nerd culture with whatever it is, anime or games, and so go for it, guys.
There's not a lot of people doing it, so
yeah. Well, I think that I don't have anything else really to bring up. Do you, Luke?
No.
All right. There are a lot of movies. We're seeing 2 movies in the next few days. We're seeing The Green Knight and The Jungle Cruise. So we'll be back to talk
Indeed.
about it. Well, we're taking a week off. Luke is going out of town, but we'll be back the week after to discuss all the goodies for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excited about The Green Knight.
Yeah, me too, man. That
It looks
movie,
crazy.
it looks really crazy. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm a
Definitely tell
sucker
me.
for a crazy trailer.
Oh yeah, you're like, what is this? I gotta see it.
1 year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm on board, Mr. Headless Man. Whatever. I'm here for it. So I don't do this very often. I always forget. If you've listened to us, if you enjoyed all this stuff, remember to tell friends, write a review. That helps somehow or whatever. I guess with the algorithm or whatever. Do all the things. Try to help us out with that sort of stuff. We'd greatly appreciate it. Please, 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 please. Oh my God, please. But either way, I mean, we'll see you in a couple weeks here, man.
Yep. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank. All right, I'm subscribed. That's it. That was the last straw. For real, bye.
The recording has stopped.